Fine. So on day 2, I talked about drivers like Firefox driver, Chrome driver. There is Internet Explorer driver as well. I'll talk about it. Fine. So I talked about these drivers. I told you that you can create. Please keep your microphones on mute. I would request you. Please keep your microphones on mute. Fine, because there is unnecessary noise otherwise. Fine. So uh, I talked about different drivers. Fine, and how to create the objects of the different drivers and use them. Fine. Now the question rises is that will you have to learn each and every driver separately? Okay, every driver class will have its own set of functions and features. Okay, so will you have to learn each and every driver class separately? The answer for that is actually no. And why do you want to do that? Why would you not do that? Is in the concept of interfaces. Okay, I'll create a new class, new Java project known as day3, and I'll explain you the concept of an interface. Fine. Now, what is an interface? Interface is something which is not complete, but it describes what the system is supposed to do. For example, in a very simple example, when you go to a hotel to have your lunch or dinner, you have the a la carte menu in front of you, right? From which you select that which food you want to eat, fine? So that a la carte menu is like an interface. It tells you what the restaurant is offering you, fine? It will not tell you that how restaurant is preparing that and how will they make it, but it only tells you that fine, this is what a restaurant is offering you, fine. So that a cart menu is like an interface which tells you what the system is doing, fine. Or the index page of the book, if you open the index page of the book, it gives you a brief idea or the complete idea that what the book contains, what are the topics of a book, fine. So similarly, an interface is there which describes what the system is supposed to do. Okay, fine. So I will I'll show you. You can create an interface. I will create a new. Earlier we were creating class, right? Now we'll create an interface. Okay, and probably call that interface as interface bank. Fine. So you will have this thing generated, uh, public interface bank. Fine. Now over here, just 1 minute, guys. Yeah. So over here, right, public interface bank. Fine. Inside this, you can create your functions, right? That what the interface is supposed to do. You can write, for example, public void uh, transfer. Okay. But the method will not have any body. You will just write the name of the method. Okay. You will just write the name of the method and you will leave it like this. You will not implement it. Then again a function like public void uh, say or hold on remit, fine. So these are some of the functions in the interface bank. right? You will leave it like this. A layman, when he reads this, he will come to know that fine, bank has got these two functions. Every bank will have these two functions, right? Now suppose if I make a new class over here and I call that class as city bank. Fine. Now Citibank is a bank, right? So you will write over here public class Citibank implements bank. When you write over here implements bank, then it becomes mandatory for this class to implement all the functions inside the bank interface. This class has to implement all the functions inside bank interface. So if you move a mouse over this, you will get the solution. Add unimplemented methods. You can add them. Public void transfer and public void remit. Right. This at the rate override is actually a sign that this function comes from the bank interface. That the transfer function is coming from the bank interface. At the rate override is actually that particular sign. It's not mandatory to give it. You can remove it. Right. It will still work, but you keep it so that uh, when a layman reads, he is able to understand that this function is coming from the bank interface. This is technically known as an annotation. Technically, when we write at the rate anything on the on test case, it's known as an annotation. Okay, so out here I can write in the transfer function system.out.println. Okay, and inside the remit function, okay, right. Similarly, suppose I have another class known as HSBC Bank. Right. Hold on. Fine. And HSBC Bank also implements the bank interface. So it will have to implement all the functions in the interface. So I'll write over here add unimplemented methods and in the transfer function HSBC transferring and in the remit function HSBC remit. Fine. Just 1 minute, guys. Okay. Right. So now this is the bank interface and these two classes are implementing the interface. Right. Now what is the use of this structure? Why did I do like this? I could have also simply made Citibank or HSBC bank classes without creating the bank interface. What is the advantage of this structure? The advantage is that, right, this is the central bank interface. Okay. Both the classes, they implement this interface, right? So whatever you define inside the bank interface, fine. Whatever functions you define inside the bank interface will be present inside both these classes. The names will be same. However, the implementation can be different, but the names will be same. So just by looking at this interface, you will be able to tell that fine. These two, three, four functions. What? How many? How? It depends on how many functions are there, right? All these functions will be present inside both these classes. The implementations will be there. Okay, right? Just a minute, guys. I'll give him the meeting invitation. All right, fine. So this gives our whole thing a generic, you can say, a structure. Fine. Both the functions are present inside the HCT bank and HSBC bank, and tomorrow, if a new bank also comes up, right, both the functions will be present in that particular bank as well. Okay, the implementation can vary. Fine. So, yes, we can declare variables inside the interface. Fine. Say I declare a variable string or say int minimum balance. Fine. But it is mandatory for me to initialize this variable in the interface, and this interface variable is final. That means you cannot change the value of this variable in any of these classes. Okay, whatever variable you are creating inside the interface, it is final variable. Final means you cannot change the value of this variable later on. This variable can be accessed by writing bank. It is static in nature by default. Bank dot minimum balance like this. You cannot change it, but if I write over here some other value, I will get an error. You cannot change it. Okay, you can declare variables inside an interface, but you cannot change the value of those variables, and you can access them by writing interface name dot the variable name. Okay, fine. My text has got very small. It is, yes, yes, it is mandatory that if a class is implementing an interface, it will have to implement all the functions. For example, if I ask Citibank to just implement one function, I will get an error. That fine, this is not good. You have not implemented both the functions. So it is mandatory for the class to implement both the functions. Okay, fine. Now, if you look at the documentation of Selenium, hold on, there's a question being asked. If the variable is fine, look, that's what in interface we declare variables which we know will not be changed. For example, minimum balance of a certain bank, I've kept 2000. So all the banks will have the minimum balance of 2000. Right. So you keep such variables in the interface which you know that they will not change. Okay. And tomorrow if you change these, it changes for all the banks. Okay. Right. So now, right. Now, what is the practical usage for this? Fine. how we use interfaces. Okay. Uh, Look, if you look at the documentation of Selenium, you go to the website seleniumhq.org. Fine. You will have a download link, and over here you will have the documentation. Right. Now in this, these are all the classes. Okay. And you will see that whatever is written in italics on the left hand side, all of them are interfaces. Okay, whatever is written in italics. For example, mouse is an interface. Okay, if you go here, you will say you see interface mouse, and these are the two classes implementing this interface. Right. What it does, interface representing basic mouse operations. It has got functions like click, context click, double click, mouse down, mouse move, mouse up. Right. So these are the major functions present inside this interface mouse. And you can see that these two classes are implementing. Fine. So similarly, everybody has heard the word WebDriver. Fine. This is WebDriver. What is WebDriver? WebDriver technically is an interface. Okay. Technically, WebDriver is an interface, and these are the classes which implement the interface. Chrome driver, event firing driver, Firefox driver, all the driver classes which we talked about yesterday, right? All these driver classes are actually implementing the WebDriver interface. Fine, right? I hope you are able to understand what I am teaching. Fine. So if all these classes are implementing this interface, then that means that all these classes will have same functions which are there in the interface. If you scroll down, these are the functions: close, find element, that means find the element on the page; get means get the URL, go to a current URL, right? So you can actually use these functions, okay, in any of these driver classes. All these driver classes will be implementing the same functions. Okay, all the driver classes will be implementing the same functions which are mentioned over here. So you got the point, right? You don't have to learn each and every driver separately. When you create a Chrome driver object, you know that fine. These are the functions which will be there inside it. When you create a Firefox driver object, you know that fine. These are the functions which will be there inside it. Right? Okay. I hope you are able to get this because people are not able to understand this at times. Fine. Like Citibank and HSBC Bank had same set of functions. The implementation was different. Okay. Right. Yes, you can implement multiple interfaces. Right. Yeah, these methods are already defined inside interface. Okay. Now, suppose if I create a new class, right, and again I'll call that class as client with the main function, right. Over here, if I create the object of HSBC bank, look, if you just write HSBC and you hit Control space bar of your keyboard, you will get all the classes which are starting with HSBC word. Okay, I want this one, so you use this one, right? And I write HSBC bank, say H equals to new, HSBC Bank. Say H dot, I write over here transfer H dot remit. Fine. When you run this, it writes over here HSBC transferring HSBC remit. Right. Similarly, if you create the object of Citibank, fine. Citibank C equals to new Citibank. Right. You can write over here C dot transfer C dot remit. The function names will be the same. Okay. When you run this, it prints. Hold on. Yeah, it prints this output. Now remember, yesterday we had created the objects of Firefox driver and Chrome driver. Get function was in both of them, right? Because both of them they implement the WebDriver interface. Okay, right. Now moving further, suppose I go to HSBC Bank, fine, and HSBC Bank says that apart from regular banking features, which are these, I am offering another feature, right? For example, public void say loan against gold, something like this. Now this function is local for HSBC Bank. It is not overriding. It is not coming up from the bank interface. HSBC can also define its own functions. Fine. Inside it, I write HSBC loan or something like this. Okay. Right. Now you can access this function from the client. You can write over here H dot loan. You can do that. Fine. But this function is not there in Citibank, so you will not be able to use it. So you can call the functions which are being overridden in this HSBC class, and you can also call the functions which are coming, which are local property of that particular class. Fine. Okay, this is very simple, right? Okay, easy to understand. Now, please pay attention. People they get confused at this point of time. I'll just put a demarcation line now. I'll create the object in a little different way. Okay, I'll write over here bank x equals to, hold on. Now this is a different way of object creation than we had been doing over here. I'm writing the bank reference, the interface bank reference x equals to new HSBC bank. That means I'm basically writing interface reference x equals to new class which is implementing the interface. You're getting my point, right? So what do you achieve with this? With this, with help of x, you can call the functions in HSBC bank which are coming up from the bank interface. You will not be able to call local functions like these. You will be able to call x dot transfer Okay, you will be able to call x dot remit, fine, but you cannot call this function. It will throw you an error. Okay, so with this particular thing that bank reference x equals to new HSBC bank, fine, you can call the functions which are there in the bank interface and implemented in the HSBC bank class. Right. What is the use of this thing? How do we use it practically in Selenium? Right. Over this, right? Why am I teaching you this? Okay. The use is that, hold on, I'll tell you. Suppose I write over here bank, my bank equals to null. So this reference is not pointing anywhere. I talked about references yesterday, right? So this reference is not pointing anywhere. It is null, right? And depending on my scenario, okay, on the next line, I can make it point towards new HSBC, or in the next line, I can make it point towards new Citibank. Okay, are you able to understand what I am teaching? This concept, did you get it? If you have not got it, please let me know. I'll tell you. Okay, so you write over here bank reference equals to new class which is implementing the interface, right? With this you can call the local functions of the interface which are being implemented in the class. Okay, the advantage is that at runtime, depending on my scenario, I can make this reference point towards any bank. Are you creating object? I am creating the object for the HSBC bank, but the reference is of the bank interface. Okay, the object, you cannot create the object of interface. I cannot write over here new bank. This is illegal because bank is not complete. Bank is an interface. I cannot you cannot create the objects of interfaces. It is not allowed in Java. Okay, but you can make the object reference of the bank interface point towards the class which is implementing that particular interface. Okay, so at runtime I can decide that my bank, whether it will be HSBC or it will be Citibank. How this is used in Selenium, right? Let me add the Selenium jar file in the project first. Okay, now I'll just create a new class over here called as browser, right? And I will set the system property as well. Fine. Now, earlier what we used to do, we used to write Firefox driver d equals to new Firefox driver. Okay. Or for Chrome driver, you used to write, look, you just write Chrome and hit control space bar of your keyboard. You will get the names of all the classes starting with the Chrome. This is a shortcut and you can select Chrome driver from here. You don't have to type. Right. Chrome driver C equals to new. Again you hit control space bar automatically the first class coming up will be Chrome driver only. Fine. So you create the objects of Firefox driver class and Chrome driver class, and that's how you work on. Fine. But the question arises is that what if you have to selectively work? Say you have to work only on Firefox. Then you run your program and then you have to work on only on Chrome. Are you getting my point? Right. Suppose this is a variable over here. String browser, the browser on which you want to work on. Fine. So it is equated to say Mozilla. Okay. Now, if my browser is Mozilla, then I really don't want to open up Chrome. I only want a Firefox driver to run. If tomorrow if I change it to Chrome, then only Chrome should run. Okay. So if to manage this kind of situation, right, we use the second, hold on, we use this kind of concept, that is interface reference equals to new class which is implementing the interface. Now I can also write over here, instead of writing WebDriver Firefox driver, I can also write WebDriver, say driver equals to new Firefox driver. I am writing interface reference equals to new class which is implementing the interface, or equals to Chrome driver. It depends on what you want. Okay. So what you can do is you can equate it to null in the beginning. That is, it is not pointing towards anything. Fine. And in case the browser is equal to Mozilla, then make the driver point towards new Firefox driver. Okay. Else, if the browser is equal to Chrome, then make the driver point towards new Chrome driver. So at runtime, I can decide that whether my driver will be pointing towards Firefox driver or a Chrome driver. Fine. So the value will be over here. Tomorrow, generally what happens is that this browser type is read from an external file, such as an XLS file or a property file or a text file, whatever it is. Right. But right now I am just putting it over here. Fine. So tomorrow if you change in some external file, that's fine. This is the browser I want to test on. Fine. The browser name will be forwarded and that particular driver object would be created. Once that is created, you can directly write the function name because the functions are same in all the drivers. So you write over here driver dot say get go to the website, any website. For example, yesterday we had opened http yahoo.com. Fine. After that, you want to quit the driver. You can write over here driver dot quit. So this will close the browser as well and the program will terminate. Right. So whatever commands you fire, driver.quit, driver.get, driver.find element, everything will be applicable for all the browsers because obviously all the browsers are implementing the WebDriver interface. Okay, fine. So when you run this program, it launches a Firefox. Okay, no, hold on. Just hold on. Just 1 minute, guys. What is happening? Okay, right click, run as Java. You can also run your program like this. Okay, right click on the file, run as Java application. Fine. So when it runs, it opens up a Mozilla and then it opens up a Chrome as well. Okay. I'm sorry. These two lines have to be omitted, right? I don't want. Okay, I had created these two lines. I'm just deleting them right now. So now I will run this, and you'll see a Mozilla opening up, and Mozilla will go to Yahoo, and then it will close itself. See, it's closed. It was quite fast, right? And yes, this is a mistake as well. Yahoo.com. But anyways, the concept, I think it's clear, right? So you equate your WebDriver to null, point it towards the driver which you want, and then go to the website and find the elements and click on the links and all everything. Now, how do you identify elements on a web page? Okay, how do you identify an element on the web page so that you can interact with that particular element? Fine. So the thing is, right? The answer lies in the knowledge of HTML language. I would seriously suggest you, when you go back today, fine, you just go to Google and just give yourself 15 minutes, not more than 15 to 20 minutes, and type over here HTML tutorial. You will find very good tutorials on WP schools. Fine. This is the URL. I've given the URL to everyone. Fine. So you will have HTML tutorials. You'll come to know what HTML is. It is very simple. Fine. Okay. Now, guys, actually, I have to leave early today. I have an appointment with a dentist, right? So I have to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. Fine. I'm really sorry. Like I have to stop for here. So tomorrow I will be discussing about object management. That is, how do you detect objects?